Alright, here we go again. Right, so I'm working on making another super heavy tank, and I'm going to be utilizing the same sort of Land Raider tracks that I was using on the Brain tank. And basically what I wanted to do here was go over how I went about getting to this point. Hang on a sec. Aha, alright. How I went about getting onto this sort of position. So then you have this being the exterior, and yeah, so as I said in a previous video, you will, where are my bits? Say on part, you can see how I've cut down in this line here, down in through the middle of that, to get your first guiding position. And then the back you have to cut down into the middle to about through to the middle of there, which would end up being like, if I can find a bit, just use that. Can't find my other bits. Anyway, so you'll cut down, you'll have to cut to a point where on the back it's going to be tricky, because the line on the back, it doesn't go straight down to the middle. So what I did was cut down on this line and then slowly trimmed it down so that I could go directly in between here, directly down there, and then so once you get the join here, you should get a perfectly halved little circle here, or you might end up having a bit short on one side, a bit long on one side, but ultimately what you want to have is you want to have this join here the same length or as close as possible to this length, so it looks like it's, once you've filled all this with green stuff, it looks as if it's been one manufactured piece rather than something mixed and matched together. On the inside here, so you do your tracks down through here, but to get the distance right on this one, and this is kind of a tricky bit, because doing it like this alone, this gap in here is maybe 1 millimeter narrower than this gap in here, and so if I get one of these tracks and I put it there, it'll go in perfectly fine. But if I go in here, you'll see that it's up on the ridge. Let's see if I can kind of, if I put it down in that slot, it's up on the ridge, and it is about, it's about 1 millimeter too narrow. So what I've done is I've gotten some business cards, and I get 2 thicknesses of this, and I'll glue one here, and then glue another little square on top of it to get the thickness. And you can see that I've done that here. I've got that 1 millimeter also gap there, as well as here and on each of the points. What I did differently with this is at the back I cut all this away, and then I thinned out this little bit, because this tube goes onto that little bit there. I trimmed it thinner so that it was about 1 millimeter thick, while I completely trimmed this bit away. So then I didn't need to use any business card for that, but for the other parts, if you look here, there's kind of not enough of this little bit to just trim down to use on it, so I completely trimmed that little bit away so it was completely flush with this surface. And then basically you kind of have to line it up like that. What I've done to try and get them as straight as possible, as in like this line across here, to keep that as good and flat and the bottom as flat as possible, is I've got these other bits of sprues and I've shoved them in through here, so then as they go on they should make it much easier once you've sort of trimmed the extra bits away in here. Like trimming that spot will, well, not having that little spot trimmed will have it sort of skewed. Even if you try and twist it to come back, you'll see that it's not exactly straight. And you'll see here that it's not exactly straight. So then you will have a gap in the middle that won't quite be flat enough. If you're going for as clear as I can't think of the word, as accurately joined as possible with the straight edges and things like that. Because this part of the Land Raider, this part of the Land Raider doors comes out to here, it interferes with where the tracks are going to lie, so I had to cut out these by just using some pliers, and I just like cut down through there, and then just sort of snipped and sliced away. Once I was getting it flat, I was kind of initially starting at cutting like this to keep it flat, but I thought it was a little bit insecure, so I would come back here. What I did to change that was to go sort of here, so then if I had any slips I would land on that. When you're cutting these bits, it can be very tricky, so if you're not confident with your cutting, I like this particular kind of knife because it has this sort of shield here, so I can place my thumb on there, and that is kind of as much, if I have any slipping, it'll come down onto my thumb. For example, if I take this, I can cut it like that, and there's no, unless I'm really reckless, there's no real possibility for me to cut my thumb because I'm using this knuckle. You might be able to see I've got kind of a callus there. It's not as calloused as it used to be because I haven't been kitbashing as much, but having that on there, and then having basically the entirety of the blade is a part of my hand, and the only really part that really moves is this, if it moves at all. And then I apply pressure or I wiggle to cut bits. But when I was cutting down here, I used my pliers to basically find the middle. Doesn't have to be super halfway or anything like that. You could potentially just cut it from there down, so then you can have like this extra sort of portion as one piece that you could add somewhere. But I'd cut across here, and then cut as far as I can with this, and then going down inside here, cutting down the middle, gently making a line and then slowly deepening the line. But a potential red flag you can find is once you're getting into this sort of bit here and you've done the cut with the pliers through there, you can have a gap where you can come straight through and potentially cut your thumb. So be careful with what you're doing, where you've cut, and then yeah, you'll end up hopefully having something like that. What I did to join them was I got some sprues and I made sure that the edge that's on the bottom side is straight. So if you see here, this is where another sprue was coming off, whereas on this side, that's just the little white oxidization from the glue that I used. But on this side, there was nothing on it that had a sprue, so there's sort of no defect there. So I knew it was perfectly straight. So I put the edge into that corner, and then I joined it with the edge on that corner to make sure that this edge is as straight and as uniform as possible, whilst also trying to find a sprue that has no curve in it. So if I get this, you might be able to see a slight, well, this one you definitely see a curve in. This one doesn't really have much of a curve, but if I go like this, you can see that they had sprues on the side, and because I wanted to make sure that the edge was perfectly straight on contact, I deliberately looked for ones that had that straight edge, and on this one's the same on this side, down on this edge as well. So then hopefully when I get to this position, it is as straight as it can be, and then on, wait, here, let's do it this way. Here can be as straight as can be. This way I think is a little bit crooked, but we can, as we do stuff later, we can sort of wiggle it around and straighten it back up. So if you see a little bit out, but if you apply a little bit of pressure, you can sort of straighten it out. So yes, what I've got to do here is I've got to cut out and flush this bit, and then add some business card, cut out and flush this bit here, and thin this little bit here to 1mm. Completely cut this off to flush, and then I think what I did with this part is I just used that angle to sort of push up with the square, and then yeah, I don't remember if I cut these little bolts off, because you won't really see them anyway, so you could cut them off to make a bit more of a easier sort of contact there, and then yeah, eventually you'll end up with something like this. What I'm gonna do is these little bits are from a storage box, little storage box that I don't use all of these with, so I'm gonna cut these, sort of cut the rounded bits off, cut them into size, and then have that. So then I know that this is going to be straight. It's got some porous stuff that the green stuff or the undercoat can cling to, and then have that, so then I can make sure that I have a flat surface on here and fill it out, so that I either don't have to use any green stuff at all, or I can use as little green stuff as possible. And then what I did with the brain tank is I had my two of these, and I think what I did was I had it either on top of that edge, I had this edge glued to that, or I had it glued like that. So that was the width, how I determined the width on that tank. And then I think I used numerous other bits. I don't think that I went up to this position. No. because I think, what did I use? I think 2 Ford Land Raider parts were on the front. Yeah, I definitely didn't do that because it would have been this wide, wouldn't it? So yeah, I think I cut this off and then I used this part on sort of on this area, so it was like on, it's kind of like on this side but without this bit. But what I'm going to potentially do this time around is I've got cannibalized another Kitbash that I was starting on. It's going to have something like this, so then I can either have it back there or maybe bring it forward and have like a tank destroyer slash artillery piece. Where are my other bits? And then have, say, have this on front, so it would be like that, or maybe a bit further that way. Have this cannon on the front. It's made from these are Drukari Raider chassis, and then I've got business card, Mega Blocks, Pelican still going strong, same here and same there. And then these are from the Hellfire or Manticore, Imperial Guard Manticore kit. And instead of having the 4 rockets, you take the one big rocket and put them on there. And then these are from the Khorne Blood Throne. And then I'm going to carve these little details so it's not going to be Khorne, but I can change it to be Nurgle or something like that. I'm not sure if I want to have it centered or off-centered, because if I have it off-centered, I could potentially have these boys as these are from light globe fixtures up on the roof, the old ones that would stick out of the roof rather than being inside the roof. But if I had these, I remember looking up really old designs for Chaos tanks, and there was one that had like, it was like a quad cannon mortar. It was like that, and I thought, no, I could make one of those. So if I have it kind of like tank destroyer with artillery, or just have it as a artillery, so like a mortar artillery or something like that. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but hopefully that provides you with some insight into how I went about making this kind of double thick, double long Land Raider sort of track system. What I'm going to do here is I'm not going to use tracks on the inside here. I might I'll probably have to get more, but once I've got this one tracked, I might have some excess stuff that I could put one or two extra, and maybe one or two extra track bits here, but I'll want to fill that up unless I go with this design, in which case this track you won't see. I could potentially cut off there and then attach this bit onto here, because you won't necessarily see this portion of the tank tracks. So I won't necessarily, if I go with this, I won't necessarily have to have tracks in this portion. And if I have another track bit there and a couple of track bits there, I won't necessarily have to have tracks all the way down there. So you can provide the illusion of a fully tracked tank without needing to spend any extra money on bits from eBay or buying kit parts or kits in general. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. hopefully, I mean, yeah, I mean it's pretty chunky kind of design. So yeah, give it a crack. Hopefully, if you get into it, you can make some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, I will see you when I see you. Bye.